Structuralism and semiotics are ways of understanding literature by looking at them as systems of science. These theories became popular in the 1960s, especially in France, based on the ideas of Ferdinand de Saussure, a Swiss linguist. Saussure explained that language is not just a collection of words, but a system where each word or sign is made up of two parts: the signifier, which is the sound or written form, and the signified, which is the idea or meaning behind it. The connection between signifier and signified is not natural or fixed, it is based on social agreement. For example, the word cat means what it does because of how English speakers have agreed to use it, not because there is any natural connection between the sound cat and the animal. Structuralism tries to find the deep rules and structures that shape how meaning is made in different systems, including language, myths, literature, fashion, and more. Instead of focusing on what a text says on the surface, structuralists look at how its elements relate to one another. For example, a story may be understood not by its plot or characters, but by analyzing the relationships between elements like light and dark, good and evil, or high and low. A structuralist might take a story about a father rescuing a child from a pit and describe it in terms of vertical movement, high, low, reconciliation, restoring balance, and light penetrating darkness. The specific details, whether it is a father and son or a mother and daughter, don't matter as much as the structure. Claude Lévi-Strauss, a French anthropologist, applied this method to myths. He argued that all myths, despite their different characters and settings, were made up of the same basic units, which he called mythemes. These mythemes only made sense when combined in certain ways, like grammar in language. Myths reveals how the human mind organizes experience using binary oppositions such as nature, culture, life, death, or male, female. This meant that myths like language followed deep structures that reflected universal mental patterns. Structuralism suggested that meaning did not come from individual people or experiences, but from broader systems that existed independently of them. Roman Jakobson, another key figure, focuses on poetry and how language in poems often draws attention to itself. Poetic language is self aware, making readers notice how words are used, not just what they mean. For Jakobson, communication includes several elements: the sender, the message, the receiver, the context, the code, language system, and the physical contact. In poetry, the focus is often on the message itself. A poem, therefore, is not just a way of saying something, it is a way of showing how language works. Semiotics is closely related to structuralism and focuses on the study of science in general. It looks at how meaning is created not just in words but in images, gestures, clothes, traffic signals, and more. C.S. Pierce, an American philosopher, identifies three kinds of signs: iconic, resembling the thing they represent, like a photo; indexical, connected by cause or association, like smoke for fire; and symbolic, based on social agreement, like words. Semiotics studies how these signs function within systems. Yuri Lotman, a Soviet semiotician, believed that poems are rich systems where meaning is created through contrasts, patterns, and oppositions. For him, a poem is not just about content, it is about how different layers of structure interact. Poems use sound, rhythm, grammar, and imagery in complex ways, creating meaning by surprising or defamiliarizing the reader. When a poem breaks our expectations, it helps us see language in a new light. Lotman also emphasizes that meaning is not fixed in the text but depends on the reader's cultural background and expectations. This idea connects to reception theory, which says that different readers may understand the same text in different ways. Structuralism also influenced the study of narrative, creating a new field called narratology. Vladimir Prop, a Russian scholar, reduced all folk tales to a fixed number of character roles and plot functions. He shows that stories could be analyzed as formulas, with each having a structural role. Todorov and Janet expanded this work to all types of stories. They focuses on how stories are told, what kind of narrator is used, whether the story is told in the present or past, and how much the narrator knows. This focus on form over content helped critics analyze literature more scientifically. However, structuralism has been criticized for being too abstract and ignoring the human element. It often separates text from the real world and from the people who create and read them. Some critics argue that structuralism treats literature like a machine, reducing creativity and emotion to rules and systems. It assumes there is one correct way to interpret a text based on its structure, which ignores personal or cultural differences in understanding. For example, the idea of an ideal reader who understands every code in a text seems unrealistic, since all readers bring their own backgrounds and biases. Eagleton points out that structuralism avoids making value judgments. It doesn't say whether a poem is good or bad, it just analyzes how it works. This was a reaction against older styles of criticism that focused too much on beauty or personal feelings. Structuralism tried to be more scientific and objective, but in doing so, it also lost touch with what makes literature meaningful to people. Structuralism avoids politics, history, and culture, which are essential to understanding how texts are made and received. By focusing only on internal structure, structuralists ignore the social context in which literature is produced and read. Despite its limits, structuralism helps shift the focus of literary studies from subjective opinions to shared systems of meaning. It challenges the belief that literature expresses universal truths or timeless beauty. It shows that meaning is made through language, which is itself shaped by culture and history. It lays the groundwork for later theories like post structuralism, which questions even more deeply the stability of meaning and the role of the author. Structuralism and semiotics change the way we understand texts by treating them as systems of science governed by rules. They moved literary criticism away from personal impressions and toward a more analytical approach. But they also raises new questions about meaning, subjectivity, and interpretation. By revealing that meaning is constructed rather than given, these theories help people see language and literature in a new light. At the same time, they show that understanding a text fully requires looking beyond its structure to the world around it. Literature is not just a closed system, it is part of a larger social and historical reality.